Put simply, Black Lives Matter is on a roll. With the group's protests occurring across North America, its hashtags being shared across social media platforms, and its current success unparalleled to any other social justice organization, it is clear that Black Lives Matter is a popular movement. However, there is still a lot that most people don't know about the organization. So today, we're going to be running down the top 10 things you didn't know about Black Lives Matter. Number 10, its origins. It turns out that the entire Black Lives Matter organization originated from one single post. That's right, the first use of the Black Lives Matter line actually came before the creation of Black Lives Matter as a group. Now, the very first person to use it was Alicia Garza, who posted, quote, "I continue to be surprised at how little Black Lives Matter," in response to the murder of 17-year-old Trayvon Martin being let free in July of 2013. This then led Alicia Garza and her friends Patrisse Cullors and Opal Tometi to use the line as the name of their social advocacy organization, Black Lives Matter, during that same year. Number 9, the first protest. Although founded in 2013, Black Lives Matter didn't have its first protest until August of 2014. Occurring in response to the police murder of innocent black man Michael Brown, more than 500 members traveled to Ferguson, Missouri in order to protest against police brutality. Considered to be one of the most organized and vocal groups there, it was from this protest that the organization really began to grow. Number 8, their alliance with Palestine. While many major movements will support other similar movements, Black Lives Matter takes a rather controversial stance by being in support of Palestinian independence. This stance has been made thanks to Black Lives Matter being in a larger group known as the Movement for Black Lives, or M4BL, which is a coalition of more than 60 organizations from around the globe. Now, it is as part of M4BL that Black Lives Matter approved of the statement that they are, quote, "joining the rest of the civilized world in denouncing the systemic violence at the core of the Israeli settler colony," with the coalition further going on to state that, quote, "the US justifies and advances the global war on terror via its alliance with Israel, and is complicit in the genocide taking place against the Palestinian people." And while many in the Jewish community would strongly disagree with such a statement, Black Lives Matter has been successful in not making this aim a major part of its agenda. Number 7, its funding. While Black Lives Matter has been raking in millions of dollars in donations during the past few months, it turns out that they have been very well funded for many years. In fact, a Washington Times report found that as far back as 2016, Black Lives Matter's parent group, M4BL, was receiving north of $100 million per year in donations, and that in its own right, Black Lives Matter received an astounding $33 million from Democratic philanthropist George Soros alone. And while these numbers are nothing to balk at, considering the amount of activism work that Black Lives Matter does on a daily basis, we hope that these figures have increased and will continue to increase exponentially as time goes on. Number 6, counter slogans. Unfortunately, Black Lives Matter has received a lot of backlash. And while the sources and motivations behind this criticism are varied, one of the most common phrases dissidents of the movement get behind is the slogan, "All Lives Matter." Now, the reason why this counter slogan is problematic is because it is dismissive of the problems at hand. Because hey, no one is saying that all lives don't matter. However, to respond to the issue that black people are oppressed by saying that all people are oppressed detracts from the movement and stamps out meaningful discussion. In fact, as put by Black Lives Matter founder Alicia Garza herself, quote, "Please do not change the conversation by talking about how your life matters too." It does, but we need less watered-down unity and more active solidarities with us Black people, unwaveringly in defense of our humanity. Number 5. Public opinion. Although Black Lives Matter had relatively low public opinion ratings just a few years ago, nowadays this metric has skyrocketed. For reference, analysts typically use a tool known as net support, which measures the numerical difference between people who approve of and disapprove of a given topic. In the case of Black Lives Matter, the New York Times reported that in mid-2017, the group's net approval rating was actually negative, sitting at a measly negative 5%. However, just 3 years later, that number has now increased to an astounding positive 28%. In fact, the stats show that net support has gone up across every demographic with the exception of one: Republicans. While this really shouldn't be too big of a shocker, it turns out that Republicans now support the movement 39% less than they did 10 months ago, which is in stark contrast to the 84% increase in support among Democrats. On our end, we just hope that all demographics can get on board with the movement's agenda sooner rather than later. Number 4. Television appearances. It seems that Black Lives Matter's popularity has allowed it to feature not only on news channels and on social media, but even in some of our favorite TV series. Most notably, the movement has appeared on the ABC sitcom Blackish, where there is a debate about Black Lives Matter in an episode entitled Hope, and with it also appearing in an episode of Law & Order SVU, an episode of Scandal, and an episode of Empire, it's clear that Black Lives Matter has been subject to some serious prime-time television. Number 3. A loose structure. Unlike many other similar organizations, it appears that Black Lives Matter does not have much of a hierarchy. After all, as put by co-founder Alicia Garza herself, they are not interested in, quote, policing who is and who is not part of the movement. To an extent, this has its benefits, as it has allowed Black Lives Matter to not only spread quickly, but for its members to feel as if they have individual say over the group's actions. However, it has also had several negative effects, as the lack of organization has meant that the group not only lacks a clear goal, but also is at times made to sound hypocritical when certain members do or say things that are not in line with the group's published values. Yet, regardless of whether this loose structure is a net positive or negative, it certainly has helped propel the group forward in recent months. Number 2. Chapters upon chapters. Due to Black Lives Matter being so loosely structured, it has been able to expand its centralized leadership spots rather quickly. As of now, it currently has 16 official chapters, with about half of them being located in the northeastern United States. However, despite this being firmly in place, there has been a major issue within the organization of people claiming that they are the heads of a chapter when they really are not, mainly stemming from the general loose structure of the group, be it Black Lives Matter activists disrupting a Bernie Sanders rally in Seattle in 2015, or a random freelancer claiming that he was a Black Lives Matter chapter president in Atlanta a few years back. In both cases, this loose structure has made the various chapters somewhat ineffective in asserting their regional authority. Number 1. Arts and culture. By virtue of Black Lives Matter being an advocacy group, it does not just do this type of work via social media and physical protests. Rather, it sponsors a number of programs that give Black activists a chance to speak out. One such example is a series known as The Provocateurs, where Black artists give 12-minute TED Talk-style presentations about the politically active framework used in their works. They also sponsor a celebration known as Black Futures Month, which runs at the same time as Black History Month and advocates for a life post-white supremacy. When you then further consider that they also sponsor a number of smaller events on a local scale, it's clear that Black Lives Matter really is there to support all aspects of the Black community. That's all we have for you today, everyone, and thank you all for watching. Let us know in the comments down below what you thought was the most interesting fact on this list about Black Lives Matter, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notifications bell so that you don't miss out on any of our latest content.